Hey everybody, it's Georgia Weedman, author of Penetration Testing, a hands-on introduction to hacking, and your instructor for this accompanying lab. So this time we're going to look at cross-site request forgery. So basically in this case, a user would be logged in, possibly with admin rights even, into another site, and a different browser tab would attack that site. So the user's logged in, the user has browser cookies for, whatever it takes to make them authenticated on the site in question that has the vulnerability. And, there would be some requests, say the one we're going to do here, we're going to add a new administrative user. So there would be a request that, if someone adds a new admin user, that request would be sent through the browser to the server. And because the user does have the rights to do it, it would allow that to happen. But say if an attack is embedded in another site, or the user is phished and clicks on a link and it opens in their browser, it can also send that request to the site. As long as the user is logged in, in another tab, then it should work just fine. So, actually in the example that we have, let's just go ahead and look at it. The ways to get around this is to use tokens. So, people can't replay attacks. The token will be wrong. Because basically what you would do was, get access to what the actual request would look like, and then, send it again, or force the user to send it again. It's often embedded in an image tag somewhere on another site, or like I said, the user's phished and they open the page and, their browser sends it off to the site they're authenticated to in another tab. All right, so let's see what we got here. IP adder, and we want to go to .3. It's a web attack. I won't bother to nmap. I know it's web. Why not? And we've got test link 1.9.11. We do have login for this because the user that we're attacking does need to be authenticated in most cases. To make it do anything particularly interesting, usually you'd have to be authenticated. But that's just how HTTP works. It's a request and response. So if you have a valid request and you can force a user to, without their knowledge, send off that request again, like in this case, we'll create another admin. This user's logged in as admin, so if we can get their browser to send the request to create another admin and it's the correct request, then there's nothing, unless there are cross-site request forgery tokens or otherwise check stops against this, which you'll see in this case it's like they half did it, but they didn't really. So go to your exploit database and search for cross-site request forgery. This one, it actually says it's 1914, but it says 1914 and possibly below. Not always. It's certainly possible that people introduced new vulnerabilities as they put in new functionality later. So it's not always the case that older versions are also vulnerable to the same things that are found in newer versions, but often they are, and in this case, indeed they are. And I realized today, because I'm cool that way, on all the ones that have GUI based things, this has been sitting there the whole time. Copy paste readme, because you may have noticed you can copy paste real well inside the lab, but you can't actually copy paste outside of the lab. But actually you can. So all those times I've been mistyping and being I can't type this, it's actually just been me failing to use my own lab properly. So it does have, there's also a video of it just on the main page. But if you're on a Mac like I am, you want to do shift control option, not shift control alt, which is I guess the same thing, because what we want to do is grab this guy. So this is the exploit code, so it's just an HTML page. Like I said, this is HTML. It's the same HTML that app uses if it's going, that's the request that's made. If they fill out all the stuff in the form to create a new admin and they click submit or send or whatever it is, this would be what would be sent to the backend server. Of course, it would check to make sure, is this user who's doing it actually have the rights to do it? But because that user, like I said, is logged in one of their browser tabs, they will pass that check. So if we can get them to run this, then, it's all good, and it should add a new user. So let's copy this guy and then do what it says, so I don't have to type all that in and make you all miserable with my typing skills. And so Shift Control Option in my case, and paste that in, and Shift Control Option again. Alt if you're on Windows. I assume the same thing on Mac. I mean, it's the keyboard that doesn't have an Alt key on the Mac. So then, if I open up a new tab here, sure enough, I'm able to paste all that in. So that could have saved me a lot of time and woe through building this. But anyway, now you know. See, what's interesting about it is it looks like it's trying to do cross-site request forgery tokens. So basically what that would do is, though, I've seen them done really bad, maybe not as badly as this all the time, where they don't seem to require anything, but, the token would have value, and hopefully that value wouldn't just be like add 1 every time, because that would be too easy to crack, but it would create a token, and if the token was wrong, they would be able to tell that it was cross-site request forgery and not actually coming from the host itself. But it looks like this one, they started to implement that, but they're obviously not forcing it because it works anyway with no value there. And so basically we're going to create a user called new admin, and their password is new administrator password. The only thing we have to change is, where we're going to go. We're not going to localhost. We're going to, well, I guess I'm going to have to get my IP address back. We're going to .3 here, so we're going to the target. And certainly not at 1914 because, whoops, I actually need this guy. It looks like it's just at the default, so I guess it's just probably gonna be this. So take out the extra URL, and then probably the lib user manual user edit. If it doesn't work, we'll find out, but we could look. And so that should be all that we need to change. Just tell it where to go, and go ahead and save this. I'll just save it cross-site request forgery .html, and then if we do Firefox and cross-site request, did I not save it in the default directory? Of course I didn't. It's probably on desktop. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Firefox cross-site request forgery.html. Firefox. Haha. Firefox. Oh, did I do .2 and not .3? My bad. I can hear you all screaming at the screen, Georgia, you're doing it wrong. It's .3 is actually where we want to go. And then that does pull us over and create a new admin. So again, we'd have to get the user to run that somehow. People typically put it like in an image tag on another name, like make a 1x1 pixel image tag so the user doesn't even see it. And, it has that link in it, or fish someone or whatnot. What it entirely is based upon is that the valid user, their browser is logged in. It does have the rights to do it. Like, as far as the server knows, this came from that user because their browser is authenticated. So it is based upon getting a user with the rights to do the things that we want to, execute our payload, either again through phishing, through going to another site that has it embedded, things like that. So then, we could log out. However you do that. Log out. And it was new admin, I think. I don't even remember what it was called. new admin and new administrator password. New administrator password. Voila. So we have used cross-site request forgery. So, we kind of like hand waved our way through getting them to run the page, but it does allow us to run things like, in this example we just did, we created an admin, but everything, like in HTML, everything's going to be some sort of request. So, being able to execute requests while that user's browser is also authenticated somewhere else, it will allow us in many cases, if they don't have cross-site request forgery, mitigations in place to, do things that we shouldn't be doing. So that's all for this one. I encourage you to, take a look at the book section on cross-site request forgery, do some Googling, get more of the in-depth details, but I think I got the point across at least. Anyway, so that's all for this one, and I'll see you next time.